Welcome in to On the Preds, episode 20. I am your host, Alex Darty of A to Z Sports, and this is Sean Smith of On the Forecheck. We are here 20 episodes in already. We're in March, middle of March, almost trade deadline coming up, and it's getting to crunch time. Weekly show, and this is show number 20. Do you feel like we've had 20 already? It doesn't feel like it to me.
Time just flies by when we're talking. So, every episode seems like it's over really quickly. But by the time we get to the next one, it's like I've enjoyed just thinking back on the previous one so much that.
Well, all we do is just rewatch the previous episode every hour for the next, 128 hours or whatever.
Gotta get those views up.
Get the views up. Right. Well, this is the show where we recap the Preds and we talk plenty of hockey. And today on the show, we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, it is record-breaking season. We're going to talk about some records that could be broken over the next few weeks. But we also have to recap what has been a very busy and a very productive week for the Nashville Predators. They've scored 24 goals in their last 5 games. That's a pretty good mark. Almost 5 goals a game. That'll win you some games. And that's what they did. They got 8 points out of their last possible 10. And save for maybe the last 3 minutes of the Blues game and maybe the first few minutes as well, it's been almost a perfect stretch for the Nashville Predators. They beat some teams they should have beaten. They beat some teams that were tough they still beat. And they went toe-to-toe with one of the better teams in the Western Conference in St. Louis. So we're going to talk about all that. We're going to recap all of that. We are also going to talk a lot about record breaking. There are, as I count them, 5 Predators records that some of which are almost definitely will be broken in the next week or two. And then some that could be definitely broken by the end of the year. We're going to rank them in terms of when we think that will happen. And also, therefore, their likelihood of happening. Because I think ones that will happen sooner, we're pretty sure are going to happen. And then ones that might happen later, it might be a little close, but we'll see. Well, there's 5 records that I counted, and maybe one bonus one we'll throw in there for you. Sound good? You ready to do this?
Sounds good to me. I want to say really quick, we talk about 8 out of the last 10 points. We said on the last episode, we felt like the Predators needed to get 6 out of their next 8 points, and they did exactly that. So. Yeah. I guess maybe they heard what we were saying and they took it to heart. So,
yeah, exactly. Because we originally weren't going to record until yesterday, but the Minnesota game we decided to push it today. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yes, 8 out of 10 points. That's pretty impressive. So, listen, before we jump into the recaps of the week, we've got to talk about Relax the Back. So we've mentioned this before on the show. Relax the Back is the place to go to if you are having back issues or if you have any pain that you're dealing with. Basically, if you want to work better, live better, feel better every day, you've got to check out Relax the Back. It'll help you sleep well, which means you will live well as well. There's a lot of wells. So many options for customized comfort for when you sleep, work, or just want to relax at home. They've got the perfect chair, which is a zero gravity position chair. It's really awesome. You go backwards and it's like you're floating in space. They have some crazy massage chairs, which are great. They've got a Technogel mattress. You just got to go check out the store. A sleep agent is on hand every day to help figure out how you can sleep better and resolve any pain issues. My best advice to anyone, if you're having any pain at all, just go to the store. You've got to just go walk in there and see what they've got to offer. They've got things like just pillows and like massagers all the way up to, like I said, the big massage chairs that are just fantastic and mattresses. 2020 Glen Echo Road in Green Hills. Learn about the 4 pillars of wellness: healthy sleep, healthy work, healthy body, and healthy mind. Okay, so we've got some games to recap. And I think I'm going to start us off because we got to go all the way back to last Tuesday. Feels like a long time ago when the Predators were preparing for what at the time was their biggest win or biggest game of the year with the Dallas Stars in town. The action was very intense. The scoreboard was not intense until John Klingberg scored in the 3rd period. And then this happened, which I'm just going to show you, and then we'll talk about it. After the Stars went up 1-0, this particular incident happened.
Been paralyzed in terms of getting anything going here, but certainly the bench reacts when something like that
Oh,
happens.
absolutely. You got it. And then Ekholm answers the bell, going after Jamie Benn. No hesitation. This is a board. It's going to be board. It could be hit from behind, but I think they're going to call boarding.
That's a dangerous play.
It's a dangerous play. Ekholm goes, and you could see Forsberg.
Immediately after that, Ryan Johansson scores to tie the game up. Maybe not immediately after that, but like in the next few minutes. Ryan Johansson scores, and then in the last minute and a half or so, or last 2 minutes, Roman Josi scores to go up 2-1 for the Predators to go up 2-1. That was a major 4-point swing because the Stars went from up 1-0 to down 2-1. Predators get 2 points, Stars get nothing. Huge win, and that honestly, that hit on Forsberg from Jamie Benn, I think, swung the game.
I'm going to have to agree with you. And what's funny is they said it was a dangerous play. I think really got lucky because Forsberg didn't land badly. So dangerous play, decent result. It could have been a lot worse. Forsberg could have gone, cranium first into that wall and really sustained some damage. But it doesn't really matter what the result of the play was because it's the intent of the play. And that was enough to send Ekholm right up there to get in his face and get things started. And I think you take that motivation coming away from that. Anytime you piss Mattias Ekholm off, the result's probably going to be something like what you see immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think, he's one of those guys that he will react. He's not going to react in a second unless it merits something being reacted to very quickly. So if the team sees Ekholm get fired up about something, everyone's going to get fired up immediately too. There's a lot of guys that can get upset pretty quickly over smaller stuff, personal stuff, ticky-tack stuff. But for Ekholm to be that mad that fast, that something bad's happened and the whole team's going to follow suit.
Yeah. And the response from Mattias fueled the response to the rest of the team. And like I said, Johansson scored that goal going down the middle and scoring on a backhand. And then the Josi goal, still can't figure out. It hit something on the way to the net. It might have been just an arm or a leg. It might have been what's his name's pad, Ottinger's pad. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But he went in, and the huge 4-point swing. I mean, that really set the tone. If that play doesn't happen and the Preds don't score, and then they start the week out with that loss at home to Dallas, you wonder really how the rest of the week would have gone. So, in my opinion, a huge moment of the week. Now, Thursday, the Predators go from playing Dallas to playing Anaheim. And, folks, the Anaheim Ducks are not very good.
Oh.
And I know you're sad to hear it.
I'm not sad to hear it.
So sad to hear that the Anaheim Ducks are not very good. They came into and they also came into Nashville without two of their best players on the team, in Ryan Getzlaf and Trevor Zegras, who were injured. So it really wasn't much of a matchup. I mean, you hate to say that it was like a gimme win, but the Ducks were playing like a bunch of AHL guys, very similar to like that Colorado game earlier in the year where the COVID shortened team or whatever, like very similar feel. So it really wasn't much of a matchup. Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg put the Preds up 2-0 because those guys are just doing everything right now. And Matt Duchene then I skipped something. Colton Sissons made it 3-1 with a cannon of a shot from the right circle, just perfectly timed. I love that shot, that little like half slap, half snap shot where he just picks the far corner. That was a really nice play from Sissons, who's having a great year, in my opinion. And then Duchene polishes off with the empty netter, 4-1. Ducks are finished off. They're in full-on sell mode. Before we started the show earlier tonight, I saw that they traded Josh Manson to the Avalanche. That was one of their trade pieces. So they're definitely selling everything. Anaheim done, 4-1 win for the Preds. So that started the week off great. 4 points and 4 opportunities. So huge start. And then we go to Saturday. So you want to talk about Saturday?
Oh, somebody's got to talk about it, right?
Do you want to say anything about the Ducks game first?
No, I mean, it's exactly what you said. They were kind of cooked at that point. And, I'd hate to think that any game could be taken lightly. I don't think the Predators took it lightly, but that didn't seem like one where you had to do too much to make sure that you got the win, if that makes sense. And I mean, that's just kind of where the Ducks were at that moment. And like you said, they're in sale mode. So 4-1, it could have been worse, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Could have been worse for the Ducks.
So what happened Saturday?
Oh, boy. Well, Saturday morning, it was an early game, which not your normal start time of 11:30, but the Predators hosted the Blues of St. Louis, Alex, and they were quite the gracious hosts indeed because they allowed the Blues to score 3 times in the first period. That was, of course, before Matt Duchene scored goal 30 on the season. And the Predators were resilient when they came back out in the second by scoring 3 more goals of their own. And that, of course, included, one from Johansson, one from Forsberg with his 29th of the season, and Matt Duchene with his 31st goal of the season while only allowing 1. So that, of course, set the teams up for a third period showdown coming into it tied 4-4. I expected excitement, Alex. Did you expect excitement?
I really did. I mean, it was like that game was so much fun to watch up until, like you said, the very last few minutes.
I would say that all of the St. Louis Blues fans, which came to town, which was a lot, they definitely got a show. Coming in, I'm going to guess, just let's be realistic here, most of them probably come in the night before, so they were nearby, whereas a lot of the Preds fans were probably having to drive in, led to a little bit of a lopsided attendance situation at the beginning of the game because of all the snow that had fallen. So, the road conditions weren't great everywhere. They were okay on my way in, but I think that kind of contributed to an atmosphere where there were a lot of Blues fans at the beginning of the game. It evened out toward the end, but
I was going to say the Preds fans did fill out the place. I mean, it wasn't like a total takeover or anything, but it was
no. But at the very beginning, it was pretty loud for the Blues.
At the beginning, it was.
But then,
for sure.
then I think everybody kind of got there right as the game started, got into their seats, got place filled up, and it sounded great. It was a good atmosphere. Very, very back and forth on the ice, very back and forth in the crowd. But the third period, goodness gracious, despite tight play for the majority of the third period, Robert Thomas scored St. Louis's 5th goal with about 3 minutes left, and that goal was so smooth. And this led the team. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah, you have to do it when you mention him. I'm sure he gets tired of it, but
whatever. You know what? Choose a different name, folks. But
go by R. Thomas.
Yeah, R. Thomas or something like that. Bert Thomas would work just fine. Anyway, this led the Predators, of course, to pull UC Saros, as you would expect toward the end of the game. Unfortunately, maybe they pulled him a few seconds too early as they hadn't really established control in the offensive zone, which then led, of course, to 2 very quick empty net goals for St. Louis. And, of course, the game ended with a very lopsided score of 7-4, which really betrays how close that game was until the final
2
minutes.
Empty netters, yeah.
So
it's so weird, the empty net stuff. It's like that's like a part of the game that I feel like maybe Hines and the coaching staff have not quite figured out exactly how to make that work, because there have been a lot of mess ups in that department of when to pull the goalie, not just on the clock, not just looking at the how much time is left, but when to pull it when the puck is on the ice. So like there have been times where they've pulled him when the team hasn't even gained the zone, and then as soon as they pull him, they dump and like dumping the puck when you have a goalie pulled is just like it's just a recipe for disaster. Now, I mean, I don't think I'm not like most people in thinking that dumping the puck is never a good idea. I think dumping the puck is fine, but not in an empty net situation because it's too easy.
No,
possession. Go ahead.
Possession is key there. You've got to have control, and you want that 6th man coming in behind you, not joining you as you get there because you've left the net open that early. And I think that kind of thing, you always see a lot of complaints about pulling the goalie anytime it happens, just because a lot of people aren't comfortable playing with the net empty in the fan world. But I think realistically, the one time I could really side with people complaining on, say, Twitter or Facebook about it is situations like that where there's no clear possession in the zone, or you see a dump in or something like that before you even have a chance to really get established up there. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
I mean, it's best to think about. It's best to think about goalie pull, 6-man, 6-on-5 or whatever situations, as half court shots, Hail Marys. I mean, they're not going to work that often. Like they just don't.
No.
When they do, it looks great, but they don't work that often. And so but there's this whole narrative that's been added about like when to do it, or you should never do it, or you should do it when there's 5 minutes left, or you should only do it when you have a power play. It's just like there's all kinds of scenarios. I feel like people get really overwrought with how important that is. It's and also like, regular season game. Do you only do it? Do you really need to do it in regular season games? Should you only do it in playoff games? Like that seems like or should you not do it in playoff games? I don't know. It doesn't make it's really kind of silly to go on about it, which is what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to stop.
Well, I don't think it's silly to go on about it. Honestly, we probably just don't need to do it while we're trying to go through a 4-game week and everything else we've got to do. But it's definitely worth talking about. Maybe we should do that on our next episode.
Cool. All right. So now that was a big loss because not a big loss, but it was a game you probably deserved overtime. Maybe you deserved at least a point there, even though you didn't get it. And but then they get a chance the very next night in Minnesota. So what happened then?
Yeah, as much as I'd say the Wild probably wanted to win that night, considering they had just retired Koivu's number, they couldn't get it done. Realistically, Forsberg looked to make up some ground on Matt Duchene by scoring the first of the night and his 30th of the year. Very big reason why I'm naming all of these goals, which we'll get to soon. A little under halfway through the first, only to have the Wild tie it up just a few minutes later. And then in the second, Roman Josi and Philip Tomasino both scored, while the Wild added their last goal of the game. And in the third, Roman Josi, who wound up with 4 points on the night, scored on the power play early. And then Philip Forsberg scored his 31st of the season and his second of the night on the empty net. And Nick Cousins capped things off with yet another empty net goal before time expired. So you give up 2 empty net goals on Saturday, you get 2 empty net goals on Sunday. Giveth, taketh, right?
I wonder when the last time a team, or really just 2 back-to-back, any team had 2 back-to-back games in which there were 2 empty netters in each game. Probably doesn't happen very often.
Probably not. I don't know where one would go to find such information without just
I'm sure there's a way.
Down and dirty in the
I'm not going to do it, but I'm sure there's a way. I did have one highlight to show from this game.
Okay.
It was pretty funny to me because, all right, so my impression of this game, Roman Josi, I think, did not have the greatest game against St. Louis. I think he struggled in a couple places. You could argue that he was partially responsible on that odd man rush that the Blues scored on. Boy, he made up for it against Minnesota with 2 goals and an assist, right? 4.9, 2 goals, 2 assists. And I thought this goal in particular was just hilarious because, like, you just got to watch this. Like, watch how easy this was.
Just take the middle lane, and it's like the parting of the Red Sea, able to get to the middle and shovels a backhand, and it looks like just sneaks underneath of Kaapo Kähkönen's glove. Again, Roman Josi, one of the top defenders in the National Hockey League, has kind of cleaned up his defensive side of the game, but brings all kinds of offense. That's his 16th.
Roman Josi just like skates from the top of the blue line all the way down to the low slot or to the slot area and just like sends this like really easy backhand on net and scores. The Minnesota Wild, as that announcer just pointed out, parted the seas for him. Like it was, I've never seen that for Roman Josi. It's probably not the easiest goal, but certainly the easiest defense he's ever had to go against right there. I just thought that was kind of interesting how easy that was for Roman Josi to score. He also scored a power play goal later in the period or later in the game. That was a really nice shot. So Roman Josi, great bounce back game and a great bounce back game for the Preds beating the Wild 6-2. So
yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it all day long. I think coming out of that weekend coming out of the week really with that many points, and not just from winning, but I mean piling up goals. That's That's what you need. You need production, and you need that big time going forward. Score like that, it's going to be hard to lose.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got to move on to talk about some pretty big records. You mentioned a lot of goals being scored by some guys like Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg. And I talked about Roman Josi. We talked about Roman Josi. And I think that there's a conversation to be had about these records that we could see broken over the next few weeks or so. And so we're going to do that. We're going to talk about 5 records that will be broken over the next few weeks. Before we do that, I do want to talk about Hellofresh.
Oh.
All right. So Hellofresh is a wonderful product. I have been using Hellofresh for several years now. If you don't already know, it's a meal delivery program where you get meals delivered right to your front door, farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients, seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip the trips to the grocery store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and adorable. If you don't have time to cook, HelloFresh helps cut back on the time spent in the kitchen. Less than 30 minutes, most of them. Some of them are even quicker than that. Quick and easy meals, really easy cleanup. Definitely faster than just thinking of everything on your own and planning it out. It's got all the ingredients all planned out for you. Really easy steps to follow. And then also it's cheaper. So like HelloFresh is basically 72% cheaper than any restaurant meal of the same quality. Save on average $65 a month when you order HelloFresh. I had HelloFresh tonight. I ate a pasta. It was a limon pasta with chicken, and there was some zucchini in there, so it was pretty healthy as well. It's wonderful. I would strongly suggest trying it. Go to hellofresh.com/smash16 and use code smash16 for up to 16 free meals and a few gifts as well, 3 free gifts. So check it out. Use that promo code smash16. All right. Let's talk about records. Records are made to be broken. All right. So I wanted to talk about this because there are some records here that I think are pretty major in terms of the history of a franchise, importance to this particular franchise. There's a couple records that have just been on the books for a very long time that are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of tragic in a way because they're held by guys that are one of which was on the team for 2 years. And then another of which was a high draft pick that was a good player, but definitely not the legend that maybe he could have been. Fine player, David Legwand, but not the guy that certainly not like a life-changing, career-changing, franchise-changing player. Really good guy, like him, but just David Legwand is not. He's not well. He's not even the guy that whose record is about to break his. Who's about to break his record. And so what I thought we would do is I thought we would talk about the records themselves and what order we thought that they would be broken in. Here they are. I've got a little graphic here. We'll talk about them here in a second. So there are 5 records. The first one is the single season goal scoring record. So that was set by Victor Arvidsson 4 years ago. Is that right? I think 4 years ago. 2018.
The whole COVID stuff's thrown off my ability to count. So
I think it was 2018.
I'm going to say yes, that is correct.
I'm going to look it up now, and I'm going to say it was 2018-19. So end of 2019 season. But they each have 31, and Victor Arvidsson's record was 34. So that's a pretty big one. That has been, and Arvidsson had held that record. Arvidsson set the record that Jason Arnott had from several years before. So like it had been a long time since that had been even touched. I guess Philip Forsberg tied it the previous year, but didn't break it. Speaking of Philip Forsberg, career goals scored. He is at 208. The number is 210 to set the record held by David Legwand, 211 to break it. So if he has a hat trick in his next game, he will break it. 2 goals would set it. 3 goals would break it. So that's the second record. Roman Josi assists.
I think he's at 209.
Philip Forsberg?
I think so.
You're right, he is, because he scored the empty netter. That is wrong. 209. Yes, it's 209. It's not 208. My bad. Where was I getting 208? I guess I filled that out prior to him scoring that empty netter. Yeah, so it's 209. So 1 goal. He's 1 goal away from tying it. 2 goals away from breaking it. So, yeah, that's really soon. Roman Josi assists in a season. 54 is the record. He's got 49. Roman Josi points in a season, 85. He's got 66. Both of those records were set by Paul Kariya in 05-06. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's also this Tanner Jeannot rookie goals record. He has 18, and the record is 26, set by Philip Forsberg. So right off the bat, which of those do you think is most likely to get broken tomorrow night against Pittsburgh Penguins?
Gosh, so tomorrow night we're looking at the Penguins. I'd say, of course, the best for a record to get broken's got to be career goals as a Pred, right? I mean, we're 1 away from tying, 2 away from breaking it. So that's got to be the quickest one coming up. But of course, 2 goals for Forsberg means that he's at 30. So that also he's got to sell before he can break the other. Can Matt Duchene score 4 goals before Forsberg scores 2? I guess that's the real question.
So I think it's pretty clear that the Forsberg goal, especially with that 209, not 208, I think it's pretty clear the Forsberg career goals record is going to get broken first. I think that'll happen before Matt Duchene has 3 more. But they're both on a pretty solid tear, so it's hard to say that wouldn't happen. Okay, so Roman Josi assists in the season. He's got 49. He only has to get to 54. That seems very doable for him in the next week or 2. I don't think there's any way he doesn't get that record. I mean, 5 more assists for him, six more to break it is it would be a disappointment if he didn't get that in the last 23 games.
It would take something happening for that to not happen. It's he racks up enough assists just in the general, even in games that aren't high scoring. Typically, he's getting a point. So I think that one's coming pretty quick. That maybe that even comes. Maybe it even comes before the other one, before the season goals, just because
he plays so much.
Yeah,
he does a lot of things. He plays, every power play. You've got a lot of. Don't forget they're playing the Flyers this week. They're playing the Flyers on Thursday. The Flyers are very bad. That's a recipe for Josi goes out there and puts up three assists, and maybe if he has an assist on Tuesday and then an assist Saturday, then there you go. There's 5. Yep. It's very easy for Josi to put up points and Philip Forsberg or Duchene not be the goal scorers. So I could see that happening there. But I still think that Forsberg career goals is first, then the single season record, then Josi assists in a season, and then the points in a season. Just so we can get this graphic off the screen, the points in the season is going to be trickier, I think, because he's got to get to 85, and he's got 60. What was it? I got to see it.
50.
He's got 66. He's got 66, and he's got to get to 85. So I mean, he's basically got to get 19 points in the last 22 games. That is right at his pace. I mean, that there's nothing. Or it's actually lower than his pace. However, he can't have a bad week.
No.
And a bad week for Josi would be still getting some points, just not getting in a week of 3 games he only gets 1. 1 point. That's a bad week. So he can't do that. He can't really even have a bad week. So then he's got to catch up. So I think that's the harder one. I think that one would be pretty impressive to break. 85 points in a season for any Nashville Predators player. That's that record's been standing so long. People forget that the NHL was like a different world then in 05-06. That Paul Kariya season was just that was when they turned on the offense for the NHL after the lockout, and Kariya just lit up. I mean, every game he was getting 2 points. It was nuts. So he was very good that year. I think that's the last one, and then. Briefly, I think the Tanner Jeannot one is doable. I think it's less likely than all these. 18 goals he's got. He would need to get to 26, and he'd need to get to 27 to break it. He's had a great season. I think a 20-goal season for Tanner Jeannot is just mind-blowingly good. I mean, that's an amazing rookie season for that guy. So no disappointment if he doesn't get it. I think that would be a tough record to break.
I agree that it's going to be a tough record to break, but you can also see a situation where he has a multi-goal game, maybe gets something in on the empty net or something like that. The fact that he doesn't get much, if any, power play time is good. Kind of where I think that's going to make it harder is because he's just not going to get as many chances. It's just going to matter whether or not he capitalizes on the chances he does have. And like you said, 20 goals on the season is an outstanding season. So, I'm not going to be upset if he doesn't break it. I'd love to see him break it, but, he'll land somewhere. Was it you shoot for the moon, you'll land near the stars or something? Is that how the old saying goes?
Yeah.
The old children's tale from the sea or whatever it is.
The children's tale from the sea.
I don't know.
I think that's how it goes. Yeah. Tanner Jeannot, there's another record that we didn't mention here. We'll get to in a second that you wanted to mention. But so there we go. I think we've got the order. Philip Forsberg is going to get to 210, maybe even tomorrow. Either him or Duchesne is going to break the single season record probably this week. I think that's very likely. Then Yossi assists in a season. Then Yossi points in a season. And then Tanner Jeannot, outside chance at the rookie goals record. There's your ranking of the record breaking as it is record breaking season. Now, what is this other record you wanted to mention?
The other record, and I want to make sure I've got this brought up here so I can get the old numbers right. But the other record is for most hits in a season. Whether that's a stat you're keeping track of or not, the current record is Shay Weber with 211 hits in a season.
Most hits by a Preds player?
Yeah, most hits by a Preds player in a season that is Shay Weber. And, of course, Tanner Jeannot right behind him with 201. So 10 off from tying, 1 off or 11 off from breaking. And I feel like that's going to happen pretty quick. Now, maybe
that could happen this week.
Maybe you don't want to include that in the others because maybe hits don't have as much of an impact on the outcome of a game. But, there are other aspects of the game to consider aside from final score, and that is how much of a good time I have watching it.
It's not that I think their hits are important. I mean, you need to be able to hit guys in order to win the puck back. I think the one thing about hits is I just don't think they're not a stat that most people really keep track of in terms of like 30 goal scorers, 40 goal scorers. Like there's a benchmark for goals. There's benchmarks for points. There's benchmarks for wins by a goalie. There's benchmarks for shutouts and save percentage and all that stuff. Like those are time on ice, even penalty minutes maybe. But hits, just I don't know. I guess people just, for whatever reason, have not really kept track of it. Like I could not tell you the record for the most hits in a season by any player. I have no idea what that is, or in a game. I mean, I don't what even is the record for most hits in a game? No idea.
I can look it up.
Anyway, it's just that in looking at these records, who knows? Maybe Colton Sissons is closing in on the face-off wins. I did an article about that a while ago. How good he's been. I mean, he's very. I don't know. Maybe he's about to break the Preds face-off wins record.
It would be fitting. I think he deserves a record.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Very
probably
good
a lot of other people too.
Okay, so I think we've established it. Huge reasons to watch this week, to watch the Nashville Predators this week. If you have only been watching every now and then this year, if you've not really been tuning in, now is the time to tune in because you're going to see records broken. You're going to see Philip Forsberg do something that no one's ever done in the Predators' history. Same thing with Yossi and Duchesne, maybe even Tanner Jeannot. So huge week. Speaking of which, we've got Tuesday, the Pittsburgh Penguins coming to town. That's always fun. Pittsburgh's good. They're second in their division. I mean, the Penguins.
Yeah, it should be a good game. I mean, you've got to you got to remember that aside from the Stanley Cup final, that they're not really, historically speaking, a big rival. So I think a lot of the rivalry that is kind of applied to them comes from everything after and during the Stanley Cup final. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Still a lot of guys on that team from that team, and still several guys on this team from that team. So it should be interesting to see. And they're having a good year, so it should be a good battle.
Yeah. That's gonna be a good game. Thursday, like I said, they go to Philadelphia. The Flyers are terrible. That should be a win. And then Saturday they play Toronto at home. The Maple Leafs are like not winning as many games as Toronto would like, and there's gonna be a lot of media in town for that one. It's a weekend game with Toronto in town. I'm sure there's gonna be tons of Maple Leafs media here. That should be fun to deal with. And so big week, 3 games: Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Toronto, and then the trade deadline is next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow. They do have 1 game before that, so really 4 games. These 4 games are going to decide what David Poile is going to do on trade deadline day. We will probably spend a lot of time talking about that at next week's show. I would imagine that's going to be a major topic.
I'll say this. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's just a little ugly bit of truth to throw out before the show ends. But if the trade deadline's coming up and if deal with Forsberg doesn't get done, then he doesn't have a lot of games left to set that record.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's why it's probably going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course, soon they'll probably announce a massive contract extension.
Wouldn't that be
everyone will be happy. There'll be much rejoicing.
Poile's just waiting for the him to set the record for him to sign him to that contract. Boy, that'd be amazing.
I don't like being this close to the deadline, not having that deal done. I'm going to be honest with you.
Very, very strange. I still think a deal gets done.
I do too.
Either before the season ends or after. But
yeah.
All right, that does it for. What's that?
I hope it's before next week.
Yeah, for sure. That does it for our show. You can check out all of our hockey coverage at azsports.com and go to ontheforecheck.com as well. Check out Shaun. He wrote some stuff this week. Got to go check it out. And follow me on Twitter at AlexDarty1. Follow Shaun on Twitter at SCSOTF. And we will see you next week.